cursed by the old gods of Bethany. We are four souls destined to review the 1001
movies,
albums,
songs,
and TV shows you must consume before you die. Until then, we are the Immortals. And this is episode 151.
Woo! 151.
Yeah. 151. Palindrome.
It's true.
Oh, we love palindromes.
It's true, and it's the number of.
Don't include me
in
in
the number
we.
of Pokemon in the first generation.
It is.
The
What
150
is Pokemon 151? Mew?
It's Mew.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, Mew's so cute, like a little cat.
Right?
Because, like Mew, there were supposed to be 150 in the first game, and then 151 is like a hidden Pokemon that was hidden in the code.
Yep. There's just like a bunch of pixels, right? You couldn't even like see it.
It's like it's a very strange little hidden in the code like Game Boy thing. And then it's Mew. And then
There's so many cute pictures of Mew on the internet.
This is very true.
I took so many cute pictures of Mew in Pokemon Snap.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of pictures of Mew. Hundreds of pictures of Mew.
Was that the N64 game where like you have to like take photos?
Yep.
Yeah, my cousin had it.
That was my very first game.
I had
so
that
boring, but good.
You take that back.
I got that like at a sleepover because I was so good. It's like, okay, we're all coming over. We're gonna play a Pokemon game, and we didn't know it was a photography game, so it was like, oh, so we're not gonna fight. But then like an hour later, we're like really into it. We play like the one level over and over again to get the exact right thing in the cave. Yeah,
yeah, you gotta hit them with the gas bombs and the apples. Play a flute sometimes.
Like, yes, you would throw the apples at shit, and then like the Pokemon would be like, yeah, what's up?
Or if you can like throw the apples to lead them where you want them to go, and then hit them with it, and then they fall into a big vat of lava that forces them to evolve.
Is that true?
Yes. That's how you get Charmeleon to evolve into a Charizard.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
Everything about Pokemon's insane.
Yeah, it's a dogfighting simulator.
If you can hit the Zubat that's flying around holding a Pikachu, it drops the Pikachu, and Pikachu deploys a bunch of colorful balloons and floats down past you.
I don't understand how we don't have a Pokemon Snap game for iOS at this point.
I mean, Pokemon Go is very similar.
I think I heard they're making a new thing.
I know there's
like a new Snap is coming to something.
All right.
Guys, we're only like a month away from Detective Pikachu movie.
I'm so fucking excited for that.
Hell yeah.
Don't at me.
It's going to be so great.
No, like, we're going opening night.
Oh, yeah.
I know. I'm seeing the movie at me.
Pedro and I definitely
that's
are.
Happening.
Sarah will be talked into that day.
I didn't really think about it. We should probably get tickets, like, now.
No. We're fine.
You say this, but there's an army of children on top of the army of millennials who grew up with this, all who want to watch the movie just as badly.
This is very true.
You know what I'm also going to buy tickets of that day? The new Avengers film. That's no longer a thing about things selling out.
I don't know.
There are a billion theaters, and they all have a billion seats in them. We live in Chicago.
Not true.
Yeah, maybe in Chicago, but even then, like...
We have 3 AMCs
going
in
before
walking
the
distance.
fall, bitch. I hope you don't see Detective Pikachu.
No!
I'm sorry. I only hope Austin doesn't see it, because Austin's the one with the hubris.
That makes sense.
I'm Austin.
I'm Sarah. I can't believe you names yet.
And I'm Pedro.
And together we're all going to see Detective Pikachu on May something.
If this is anyone's first episode for some reason, I'm sorry.
Day is that coming out?
Hey, it's 6:30. We're on time.
Oh my god.
I do not apologize for the things I like. I'm 29 and I'm too old for that.
May 10th. Hell yeah. Anyhow. Wait, Rob Delaney's in this movie? Okay, the point is this.
Shut up. Is he?
According to IMDb.
Wait, in what?
Detective Pikachu.
Really?
Yeah, of course. Bill Nye.
Gotta have Bill Nye.
No.
Bill Nye? Like the Bill Nye?
No, Bill Nye from like Love Actually. I thought the guy from You're the Worst is going to be Detective Pikachu.
Ken Watanabe is in it. What the fuck?
I mean, of course.
Okay, you all heard me say that, right?
I did.
Okay.
You cut out for a little bit. Truly, you cut out for a little bit.
That's convenient.
It's convenient because I love Ken Watanabe. Diplo was also in it.
Yeah. So, obviously, we're a podcast where we review the 1001 movies, albums, songs, and TV shows one must consume before they die.
Yeah.
And this week, we're doing the 507th entries in all those lists. And see where they are.
We watched Patton.
Sure. The album is Rip It Up by Orange Juice.
We listened to Beat the Clock by Sparks. You got to what?
Beat the Clock.
Beat the Clock.
Beat the Clock.
You got to beat the clock.
Beat the clock.
And the TV show is Knowing Me, Knowing You. Aha.
Knowing me, knowing you.
Aha.
Aha. Peter hasn't watched it. That's very confused right now. Before we get to all that, aside from the Detective Pikachu trailer, you guys watch anything this week?
So much Game of Thrones. Just never-ending Game of Thrones.
Oh, are you prepping?
Yeah.
We're definitely behind in our schedule.
But I caught up. You just gotta catch up with me. Let's get going.
What's the one thing you want to see happen in the last season? Like, what's one thing that you just really hope for?
I feel this is safe to say because none of these are spoilers.
Of course.
I really want Jamie to kill Cersei.
Oh, you took mine.
I know, right?
That's a definite. I would also like Tyrion and Sansa to have some interesting conversations, given that they are maybe still married.
I really, really, really love Cersei, but I also really, really want Jamie to kill Cersei.
What? Like, do you love her as a character? Do you root for her? What are your feelings?
Hey, Lena Headey is
hot
and a gay film icon because she was in Imagine Me and You.
Okay.
Oh, right.
She's
movie.
Hot, a gay icon, and also her performance is tremendous, and that character is always interesting.
She is.
And is always doing something that I'm interested in, which you cannot say of, like, almost any other character on that show.
I mean, and she is like the ultimate cautionary tale for all of the younger female characters who are, like, because she's just been, like, destroyed by rape in the patriarchy, and, like, it's turned her into, like, a horrible monster.
I thought it was such a good twist that she... that she's the first lady to sit on that Iron Throne.
Yep.
Like, when she sat, you're just like, oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
She's really good. But also, like, that moment when in the finale when you're like, oh shit, Queenslayer, come through, Queenslayer, it's gonna happen.
Oh yeah, no, Jamie's gotta do what he's gotta do. Also, I'm in love with Jaime Lannister to a degree that's, like, very, very major.
Oh, so. Sarah, I know.
It's like, but JC, like, it's a problem in my life right now.
I really want Brienne. I want Brienne and Jamie to meet up again.
Do you want them to get together?
No.
I also do not
want to get together. What's his name? The dude who loves Brienne.
Tormund and Brienne would be perfect.
I think Tormund and Brienne would be perfect. I think that Jamie...
I also think Brienne is gay. So
I also think that, and there's not, like, a good option for her, I feel like. But I feel like...
I think she can just be, like, loved by what's his name?
Tormund.
Yes.
Yeah, that works for me.
And he can just adore her from afar.
She needs to, like, understand that she is hot, among other, and like feel empowered about beauty as well as, like, strength.
She's also interesting. She and Cersei, and also I'm always interested in what Sansa's doing.
Yeah, Sansa's a total fucking badass right now. So
Queen in the North. I think there's, like, a couple end games that make sense, but I think Jon and Sansa is one of them. As King and Queen of Westeros. I'm just saying. Wait. Hold on. We need a rewind.
All right.
Like, they're married?
Look. Okay, first of all, they're cousins. And, like,
Sarah!
Let's be clear. George R. R. Martin has, like, inured us to the idea of cousin incest hardcore. Like,
I know.
We are all fine with it.
But they're not raised as cousins. They're raised as siblings.
I know. Okay, I know. But, like, here's... Either Dany or Jon has to die, I think. I don't think they both make it.
Well, then fuck Jon dies. 100%. Jon is so boring.
Jon is boring, I agree, but I think that Dany's gonna die instead. Because I think the show thinks that Jon is interesting. Because Jon's a man. Like,
if Dany dies, if Emilia Clarke survived 2 aneurysms,
I know, right?
only to have Daenerys Targaryen be killed off in the final season of Game of Thrones.
No,
my whole life will have been a lie.
The truth is, the person who's gonna...
What?
Jamie's gonna die. Like, which makes me really sad, because I really don't want him to, and I don't think he will in the books. I think that Jamie survives to the end of the books, because George R. R. Martin's much more interested. Will he ever finish writing the books? No. So they'll all die. Well, yeah. But I think George R. R. Martin's a lot more interested in Jamie than, like, the show is. So I think Jamie's probably, like, our big sad dying. Mm-hmm. Or they just all die and the Night King wins.
Also, George is big on doesn't matter if you deserve to die. That means you'll probably live. Whereas the show's a little more like,
no, that's the thing of like,
he's done bad
there's going to be at
things
least one like very tragic, needless death of somebody that we care about. I feel confident that it will not be Arya and it will not be Sansa. Beyond, Bran, whatever, he's dead already.
Gives a fuck.
Bran's a bird now.
But I think Jon, Dany, and Jaime, Tyrion also I think is pretty safe. But I think Jon, Dany, and Jaime are all like.
Tyrion would be a great. God,
remember when Tyrion was an interesting character like 3 years ago?
I still like Tyrion.
I do too, but he hasn't done anything interesting for like 3 years.
What I really want Tyrion and Sansa to like grow a like beautiful, mutually respectful relationship that grows over time and becomes something beautiful. That is the thing that I want in my
romantic?
Yeah, no, like in the long term, like in the not everything works in Westeros, but like the Ned Stark and Catelyn Stark kind of way.
I'm on Team JC in this one.
Really?
Yeah.
I like it.
I like it.
It's cute.
Honestly, Sarah, I like, yes, like I think I could see it like in your brain. Like I want to buy into this thing. It's hard for me to sit with though.
Oh no, I mean it's like a fundamentally like it's like a capitulation to the patriarchy, but like it's also like Sansa like claiming her place. Like I don't know, I think there's some like elements of choice that could be very interesting in that story.
Yeah, I want Sansa to be queen in the north, and then Jon and Dany can be on the throne or whatever. Really, like Jon can die. That's fine.
That's a fucking happily ever after that ain't happening, honey.
Well,
I know, but I want it to happen
somewhere.
They all deserve to die.
That's probably true too.
Well, I mean, I think there's like 4 or 5 shows I currently watch that has had a female character be queer in the last season. What if Sansa realizes she's queer and ends up with Brienne?
I mean, that'd be amazing.
And then they rule the North together.
I've read that fanfic, but
is that actually a fanfic?
Of course it is. Are you kidding me? That is a very fanfic is written entirely, remember, by women, most of whom are queer. So yes, that is a very common fanfic.
I just see her too much as like a mother figure.
All the straight ladies write Sandor, Sansa fics, and
oh my god!
Oh yeah,
it's like so many things. I believe everybody should 100% follow their bliss.
No,
that is not my bliss.
I know, but it's very straight girl bliss. It's very straight girl bliss.
We have to end this. But Peter, you didn't get a vote. What do you want to see in the last season?
Just not everybody die.
You just want like someone to live at the end.
Yeah, and at least one dragon.
Yeah, I'm sure someone will.
And have one dragon survive to the end.
Mm-hmm.
I think we'll have 2 dragons.
It doesn't need to be Drogon. Yeah, he's like very aggressive and
which dragon makes it.
He's the one that killed a child.
Wait, we should do. We'll do this because we're not gonna talk about when the show's airing because it'll be like actual spoilers, people who are like waiting and such. We should all name a character now that we feel convinced will be alive at the end and see how wrong we are.
Okay.
A month and a half from now.
I believe Sansa will be alive.
Okay. I think I am surest that.
Wait, surest or the one that you want to be alive the most?
The one that the one that I want to be alive the most.
Let's do that one. That'd be more heartbreaking.
Is Arya?
Oh God.
Because like
is Arya?
Yeah,
me too.
I think everybody want Arya to be alive the most.
But I actually think that there's a pretty decent chance that Arya doesn't.
Yeah.
Which would be fucking devastating. And again,
but like she'd go out in the coolest way, I'm sure.
For sure. But like, oh yeah, if she goes out, she's going out taking out an ice dragon. Like she's doing something crazy. I also, but like, what I love.
So your vote is Arya.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Of the one I want to live.
The one that you want the most to live.
Okay, I take it back. I thought so. I want Daenerys to live most of all.
Peter, do you have one?
Well, second to Arya.
Okay.
You know what? I want Grey Worm to live.
You know what? Yeah,
Grey Worm
and Missandei are people who really deserve
happiness. I forgot about that.
I think they are so likely to die.
No, they totally are because again, like you also have to think about book and show canon, and they are not book canon, which means there is no reason not to kill them.
My pick, because he's always up there in my top 5 characters. I just want him to be like last man standing. Varys.
Ferris to live. Ferris is definitely gonna die.
I want King's Landing to be like destroyed. Everyone is burnt skeletons, but still him sitting next to the throne, like being very like
he's slowly losing it and actually
didn't
talking to
that
spiders.
literally already happen when she blew up everything?
No, but like I just want him to be like for the realm. He never sits in the chair himself, but you know, he'll get a broom and clean up all the ashes.
Makes a lot of sense to me.
So anyway, those are our picks for Game of Thrones. I think it's time to jump into the show proper, because this is actually a decent transition. What movie do we watch?
Austin, we watched Richard Nixon's favorite film, Patton.
This is Patton, a salute to a rebel, a man whom the New York Times described in an editorial 2 days after his death as a legend, spectacular, swaggering, pistol-packing, deeply religious and violently profane. A strange combination of fire and ice. George C. Scott as General Patton.
If they followed my plan, I'd be there by now. I'd cut off the retreat of every damn German that's hanging on this island. I didn't pick you.
Carl Malden as General Bradley.
Ike picked you. You're one of the best field commanders I've got, but you don't know when to shut up, George. You're a pain in the neck.
So Patton is a film about George Patton, who's a general, specifically during his time in World War II. It was made in 1970. It's directed by somebody named Franklin Schaffner, but it's from a script by Francis Ford Coppola, which is cool, with Edmund H. North. This is an autobiographical film about Patton, literally right at the end of his life, because he died very shortly after the end of this, like in the timeline after the end of this film.
When the actor? Or?
No, Patton.
Patton himself.
Patton dies in 1945.
Yeah,
wow.
Okay, that's, yeah, he died right after.
He died like 10 minutes after the last shot.
I mean, once, like, you know, he stopped and the war was over, what did he have to live for? He just, this is it,
that
bye.
Part where he almost gets hit by the truck, like that's an allusion to how he actually dies, which we can get into later.
Yes,
but
it's very good.
It's a very it's a movie that is literally so quotable. I couldn't believe it was more quotable than Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which we watched last week. But it is super famous because of the opening shot, which Austin will remember Dave Bardos made us watch in Honors Block.
I did remember that.
Where Patton stands in front of the American flag and delivers a sizzling monologue about how war is not about dying for your country, but by making some other poor bastard die for his.
No bastard ever won a war dying for his country. He won a war by making the other bastard die for his country.
That was a very good impression.
That was
it?
I know exactly when Sarah watched that scene because
I love this movie
she
so
just
much.
kept texting me those lines, even though it was 7 a.m. and I was still asleep.
I thought you were awake and going to work, but I was on a train for a work trip and was watching Patton on the train and just like needed someone to know how great that scene was again.
Which is one of your like best qualities as a friend. You'll be like, I'm going to bed, but please keep texting me your reactions about the thing that you're watching.
I literally wrote to her, you can keep texting if you want.
Yeah, but he went back to sleep.
So in the movie, they never actually told us when he gave that speech. It's strongly implied during the speech that they're in Europe. He has 4 stars.
The Third Army, so I think it's like right before the Third Army does the sweep across France.
Which
like
is,
if I'm going to guess,
I think that must be right.
Yeah,
because by then he's a 4-star general.
42 or 43.
He had all this
early 43.
stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's where I always see it removed from time.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Like I almost don't see it as like
how
a real
they want
scene.
you to see it.
Yeah.
It's just Patton being sort of like, I mean,
we never see the crowd.
And there's a couple of different voiceovers throughout that are all sort of, including the last one, which is like so good, that are all sort of out of time because he's this like such a larger than life figure, in everyone's mind that it's like, yeah, you know what? He's just the kind of guy who monologues sometimes in front of an American flag, and we don't really give a fuck when that was.
Which 2 states were not a state yet, because there were 48 stars on that
Hawaii
flag.
and Alaska.
Hawaii was not a state, even
Correct.
when Pearl Harbor happened?
Hawaii was a territory. It became a state in 48, and Alaska became a state in 51. I think.
Good point.
Or that's switched, and I made a lot of noise. Or that switched. I can't remember, but they are those are the 2.
Something like that, yeah.
Oh.
So, Patton.
Oh, I love this movie so much.
I liked this movie so much more than I thought I would. I was blown away by how much I liked this movie.
I watched this movie, I remember, like, I was, like, at home and sort of was like, I should watch some movies. I'll do a Best Picture winners, like, you know, block and just, like, see what's on streaming and watch it. And I watched this movie and I was like, how is this movie so good? Like, it's his, like, George C. Scott's performance is so unbelievably magnetic and amazing. And his dialogue is so fucking funny. And also, like, important and heartwarming. And, like, this movie is, like, I'm often struck by World War II movies these days because there's a certain moral clarity to World War II that is, you know, sorely lacking in the modern world. But, you know, like, he really likes punching Nazis, and that's cool. And
except that he employs them at the end of the movie.
Oh,
so
no, he's not great, but, like, he's not a perfect man. Don't get me wrong, but
no,
but the war is, like, he wants to win for good reasons, and he wants to, and he is, like, there's this, one of my favorite moments is he's just, like, going on and on about, like, there's no other army in the world that could, like, redeploy so quickly, that could turn around and, like, you know, immediately move on to a second front with no, you know, like, no sleep and and he, it sounds like he's bragging about how great he is, and then he turns around and he just goes, I'm so damn proud of these men. And I'm just like, you're the best, and I love you.
He loves each and every one of his soldiers.
He does.
Like, wholeheartedly. But he also loves the glory of the battle that they're about to go into.
Like, it's such like a crazy cool character study because he's so many different things at once.
Yeah.
Austin voiced a sound that maybe reflected some of my emotions. So, Austin, talk to us about what's on your mind.
So I don't love this movie.
Well, you're right.
I've the second time watching it, and I've never been a big fan, and I actually liked it less this time. And I think George C. Scott is incredible. It's my favorite performance of him, and that guy's just an amazing actor. But, like, the idea of him loving every single soldier, to me, I can't really buy, because this is a man who, in my mind, simultaneously wants to win the war and for war to never end.
Yes.
And one of the best moments in the movie for me is that long shot when you have all these, like, broken and, like, dying soldiers and whatnot. Then they cap by, like, saying the thesis, like, a soldier going, like, he's not even, like, looking at that kind of thing.
Right.
Like,
and I think you're right. I think he is proud of every soldier, but he doesn't have compassion. I mean, like, in any kind of, I mean, the you know, when he marches into, probably my favorite sequence is the about 20 minutes that he spends sort of shaping up the Sicily, I think it's Sicily that he's in, where he's, like, going into the hospital and like finding the cook for not wearing leggings and, like, all of these things. And
that was Northern Africa still.
Northern Africa. And is basically, like, I mean, my favorite is, like, he's talking to the doctor, and the doctor's like, I can't wear a helmet because, like, I need my stethoscope. And he's like, drill holes in your helmet. Like,
$20 fine.
$20. No, he does not give the doctor $20.
He gave the cook one.
Yep,
I'm like,
cook.
$20 would piss me off in 2019.
I know.
Jesus Christ, 1940.
I think we can. I think I can quote from what I said to Austin about what Patton's feelings about what he cares about is. Now, the army is a team. This individuality stuff is a bunch of crap. Those bilious bastards who wrote about individuality for the Saturday Evening Post don't know anything more about war than they do about fornicating.
That was better than I thought it was going to be for your impression of George C. Scott.
Again,
so
Sarah,
great.
Don't let anybody tear you down. You're doing great.
So good. I just love him so much. But, like,
I think. I was going to say, I think it's, like, for me, it was like it's somewhere between you two. I felt like when you look at Patton, you see someone who thinks they love the men that they're leading, but that's not actually that's not actually what you do when you actually care about the lives of others. Like, the actions that he takes, he has the kind of love that I think, like, maybe, and I think this is probably what it sounds like is very characteristic of at least the Patton we saw in the movie, is that he has, like, the love for his soldier like a king has for his knights, and that, like, they are just extensions of him, and not that, like, we think of those people as people who have lives and families and I don't think Patton thinks of them like that.
I mean, and his dismissal of battle fatigue is like really jarring now. And I mean, it's also, I mean, it's interesting because like more than a lot of war movies, I think this movie really hits home the sort of like the stakes he's dealing with, and like I usually would be really, really, really squicked out by any scene that sort of like diminishes the mental impact of war on soldiers. But there's something about like the way the movie sets up the stakes that like where like you do really feel that feeling that like if every single person is not performing at their very highest level, like there will be a loss. And that doesn't mean it's okay, but I think this movie is like such an interesting character portrait because I think everything that we are saying about Patton, the movie knows. Like I really do. I think that it doesn't lionize him entirely, and I don't feel like in the scenes where he shows the contempt that he has for some of the more emotional aspects of things, and that like I don't feel like we're supposed to think like, oh, he's a good guy. I think we're supposed to think that's the guy who won World War II, and like let's think about that. Like, you know, like that it's like that it's like as sort of and that we're supposed to see that he never self-criticized on that was just who he was.
I don't know about that because like to me one of the best scenes in the movie was when he was being truly cruel to that soldier who was afraid. And it's a really powerful scene. I go, oh, this is how you can do this in a Hollywood system of like cruelty and apathy towards what you'd be about. But then once it becomes like an actual plot point and they go like, we can't you be around here because you might slap another soldier. And then the movie ends with Carl Malden going like, it's really good that you slapped that soldier because now we're in a better world because of it.
But that's not, I don't think that's wrong.
I think the core, like I felt like this movie did a lot better job of showing us that he made mistakes, that he is arrogant, that he's kind of a buffoon, that these things that he, like that perhaps the fact that he loves war so much is to his detriment. I don't think it's quite balanced. I felt like especially early in the movie there was a lot of like, the movie was just a lot better at showing us that like this need to be like this sort of Charlemagne of the modern era is not actually something that's going to serve him. And I really liked that part between him and Carl Malden's character, Omar Bradley, when he's like, the difference between us is that you love this and I'm trained to do it. And I think
I love that scene. God damn,
that scene's so really good. And and I don't know, I think that just spoke to me in terms of like, you have this sort of relic out of history, which is like very, very much who Patton wants to be. And then there are moments where I'm just like, really, like when the Germans are fucking like abandoning their bunker or whatever, and that last sergeant is like, the magnificent anachronism, George Patton, and he like looks longingly at his photo before throwing it in the fire. I was like, give me a break. Like, come on.
Well, yeah. The Germans love Patton.
There was a little too much of that kind of stuff near the end of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite.
Wait, so Pedro something.
Well, I was gonna, I guess, tagging along to that though. Like, they all kind of loved each other. He was reading Rommel's book. Rommel's like, tell me about Patton. Like, this was still a day and age where all of these guys probably trained together at some point. Some of them probably fought each other like 20, 30 years ago in the First War. Like, these are military historians in a way. And, like, seeing Patton and the British guy, him being like, well, I get to fight Rommel next. And, like, as a fuck you to him, because that's sort of the status symbol is who you get to go against and what army you get to go against. And just like the old school, whose army is better. I thought that was kind of prevalent everywhere. Just that we got to see everyone's hard on for Patton a little more.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite scene in the movie probably is the scene where he talks about, he says the world grew up. Like the idea of like, he's a relic from actually like the 19th century, which is such a weird, like, I mean.
The German calls him a 16th century guy.
A 16th century man. And like, And, like, it's interesting to me to think about this movie in the context of... So now we see World War II as this moral conflict of civilizations, in part because we know about things like the Holocaust, which Patton didn't know about at the time that he is doing a lot of this fighting, right? I mean, like, basically we discover, like, in history, I mean, I really do think we forget this, that, like, our understanding of what World War II wasn't something that was clear to armies on the ground at the time that they were fighting it. And on the ground, the European front, at least for Patton, looks a lot like World War I. I mean, it looks a lot more like, like he has that moment where he says, like, I'm going to, like, take my tank and roll, like, right up to Rommel, and he's going to roll up to me, and we're going to get out, and we're going to shake hands, and then, you know, we're going to, just like some old school, like, this old school 16th century shit, right? And, like, and then it's interesting, I think, you know, the rejection of Patton at the end, which is MacArthur doesn't want him on the Pacific Front. Nobody wants this sort of old titan of military history. And the reason is because, in part, what's happening on the Pacific Front is so much more real and violent and not... you know, I mean, within a year...
It's not Patton warfare.
Yeah, within a year, we're going to drop a bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Yeah. I mean, we've already... I think we've already firebombed Tokyo by the end of the movie. I mean, we are doing a very different... MacArthur famously, his quote about World War II is, if we hadn't won, we would have been tried as war criminals. And, like, you have this, like, these... Like, it's... I think this movie has only gotten more... striking to me the more I've learned of World War II history, because it really doesn't pull its punches in terms of going deep. Like, if you know more about Rommel, if you know more about MacArthur, if you know more about the Third Army, like, they, you know, the people, the writers of this movie know what they're doing.
Also, they had a similar end too, didn't they? Because, like, MacArthur was dismissed eventually because he was like, build more nukes, let's nuke everybody, keep going.
Yes.
And a huge part of Patton was, we're already in Europe. We know we're not going to like Russia. Let's just keep going and get rid of Russia. Like, it's the same thing.
So, yeah, I also want to talk about the visual storytelling of this film. Because, like, one of my favorite scenes, in terms of, like, what we were just talking about, is Patton explaining that he doesn't think that he's going to get a battlefield commission while he talks to a group of soldiers while he rides around an empty barn on his white horse draped in, like, red, old-school, medieval-style like armor, and it's just like riding his white horse in circles. Like, I just feel like there are these, like, the way this movie films battle scenes is incredible, and then the contrast of that with these, like, extremely stylized, sort of big, like, broad shots. I mean, obviously the first 5 minutes of this movie is, I will put in a vote as this is definitely, off the top of my head, my favorite first 5 minutes of a film.
Ooh. I don't want to vote until I've seen Detective Pikachu. Is that fair?
That's fair. Can we think about, like, leaving that number 1 spot empty and then, like, thinking about where you're at?
We'll think about that.
I don't know. What about Touch of Evil? That's a pretty good first 5 minutes of a movie.
Real good. One shot.
Yeah, I really liked the bit at the end. Like, there were some really nice things where, like, I really thought that the sort of Don Quixote-ness of Patton coming back at the end as he walks by the windmill.
Oh, it's so good.
That was really nice.
The Romans.
Yeah, and you know, all of his accoutrement and his handlers and his silk bed and all these things.
I love him.
He speaks French to the French soldiers and people.
I mean, this is the other thing. It's just like, I'm in love with him. Like, I don't know why this particular version of masculinity is this attractive to me, but I just want to be clear that it is.
That is beautiful. I'm not sure. I don't know. I think it's hard for me. So I feel like I just learned a lot about World War II from Pedro and Sarah in this moment. I'm not sure that was conveyed to me, sort of all these layers, like, in the film. Like, I felt it was much more like, here's this man, and, like, here is the landscape in which he is on, and, like, it's much more about him as the character as opposed to, like, making a statement about, like, what World War II is to this person. I really think we could be in any war. We could be in the American Revolution, and it would just sort of be the same movie.
I think it works
to be the Germans
levels.
this time.
Patton kind of alluded to that because he believes in reincarnation. He's like, I was here in battle 2,000 years ago.
What a fucking cocky asshole.
Right? But like during his speech to the French when they freed Corsica, because Corsica is where Napoleon was born, he was like, just like how we liberated the birthplace of Napoleon, we're going to go and liberate the birthplace of Lafayette. And Lafayette was the general that helped our ass during the Revolution. And I think he knew that and understood that and just saw it as an extension of history. It's like, we're just going to give it right back. There you go. Let's do this.
Oh,
well, that's
because he's a beautiful, wonderful man.
So I don't like this movie very much as a war film because, like, as we kind of talked about, this could be any war. And so weirdly, the villain of this movie really doesn't feel like the Germans at all. In fact, this almost feels like a Holocaust-less World War II movie in a way. Like, the most, like, antagonist position I feel like in this movie is just the idea of, like, playing the game and doing politics. That seems to be what annoys Patton the most. Like, it's those aspects where you're just like, okay, I need, like, you know, shake the right hand and say the right things and do the speeches the right way.
That's terrible at that.
I know, and that's why the film feels like it hates that more than the Nazis.
Yeah, but okay, so I actually kind of liked this as a World War II film, even though it was separated from the Holocaust. In part, as Sarah mentioned, like, at the time that the movie started, it wasn't clear to boots on the ground. Like, there were rumors. People knew to some degree. The CIA probably knew if the CIA existed at the time.
It did not.
But, like, Patton wouldn't know. But also one thing that this...
I don't think it's necessarily that it lacks a Holocaust. I think just that it lacks an antagonist that isn't Patton's ego.
Oh.
And I don't think the movie really recognizes... I think it kind of starts to... It gets a lot closer, I think, than I really expected it to, which I think was why I enjoyed it. But it doesn't really name Patton's ego as the antagonist of the movie. I think in that way, it does lionize him in a way that doesn't quite like sit well with me, even though I find him like extremely compelling to watch.
I don't know. I think it did in a way that, like, so for example, when he slaps the shell-shocked soldier, it's hard. And basically the country goes against him. They're like, no, you can't do that. Ike says, bad. No, don't do that. I don't know if they mentioned Marshall or Roosevelt, but like he was chastised for that. Like, you can't do that. And while he was doing it, he said this line. He was like, he should be tried for cowardice and shot. Mm-hmm. And when he said that, I was thinking, like, you know what? If this were the Nazi army, possibly if this were the Russian army, possibly the Japanese army, and this might just be, as an American, the characters of those different armies that I have probably would have been shot on the spot, kind of thing. Maybe not true, but instead the United States got behind the idea that, no, that's not okay. You shouldn't do that. And I thought that sort of helped portray an image, a bigger image than just Patton, but also that Patton isn't the best.
Yes, I think that's like it was a really sound foundation for that, but I just don't think it delivered. Like, we just see Patton sort of like, because like, I agree. Like, that was like, I was like, oh, like, this is really interesting. Like, this balance, it's going to keep happening. And then it just doesn't really play out. Like, he still gets to swagger his way into a command position and still gets to fucking scream across France, which is fine, but like, the script felt so smart in certain ways that it was hard to sit there and be like, so this is just going to be another hour of us watching this man make speeches, which sound very good, but like, again, are I'm not sure what story it's trying to tell other than like, look at this dude, wasn't he interesting? I just feel like we're owed a step more than that when we're talking about this kind of thing and we're talking about war in people's lives, that it has to be more than like, wasn't he an interesting guy?
I guess I will say, and I know I am an unabashed defender of this movie. I've seen it 3 times. Once when I saw it first, and then
you're in love. You're blinded by love.
I'm blinded by love. No, I mean, I saw it for the first time, and then I watched it again just like for fun because I liked it so much, and then I've watched it for this podcast. I have found more layers on every rewatching to the script, and I actually do think that it is a piece of art that bears a rewatch, because I actually think that it really does think about who Patton is and his ego as the enemy of everything he's trying to do, and it does have things to say about MacArthur and the Pacific Front and all of this stuff. And so I unabashedly am a defender of this movie, and that I think that in many ways it doesn't. I actually don't think it misses anything. I think it doesn't. It's very complicated, and there's so much. There are so many words in this movie. It is a very wordy movie, and everyone's got something to say. And I found, as I went back and rewatched scenes after I had finished the movie, because I love this movie a lot, that I found that there were a lot of layers, often historical, with references to generals and other things like that, that they really were working on sort of a slice of life picture of who this person was and what the people around him would have thought.
It's just kind of because this won Best Picture.
Good.
And it's kind of an interesting of a what if kind of thing, because one of the other 5 nominees for Best Picture this year was, I think, a truly kind of great anti-war film from its decade, which is MASH. MASH is very different from the TV show. MASH is, starring Donald Sutherland, Elliot Gould, maybe Robert Altman. It is so biting in a way that this movie isn't. It's kind of weird that they're both up for Best Picture, because to me, this is a movie after 2 viewings where it does kind of condemn aspects of Patton. I still feel that it might be selling war bonds in the lobby.
Oh fuck yeah, no! Yeah, it is a movie that thinks that Patton is a person that we should be interested in and should think won World War II. Which I guess my thing is, he did. So I'm not. That doesn't.
Yeah, they're not wrong.
I'm I don't know.
But
I best army behind him. We need someone to storm.
Right. I mean, I think, and it really does, the military strategy parts of it really do point out, how often he is making the call that, if you sort of know World War II history, is the call that saves the war. He really does what he set out to do. It reminded me of Band of Brothers that way, of a sort of these are the guys who we're gonna it was a movie that delves deep into no, but for real, if these guys hadn't been there, we might not have done what we did.
What to kind of wrap it up a little bit, I want to talk about George C. Scott, who,
bless his heart,
adore him. He's brilliant. He won Best Actor, but I never heard this quote before. He is one of the first people to reject his award.
Oh, right.
Because he says,
I read this
quote,
too. Yeah.
The Academy Awards are a 2-hour meat parade, a public display with contrived suspense for economic reasons.
Is he? Wow. Did he send someone to accept?
No, that's Marlon Brando for The Godfather, where he brought this Native American woman on stage, where she said how America has committed genocide against Native Americans.
And you can just hear Roger Moore booing as loudly as possible.
Honestly, that is one of my favorites.
What?
It's not a good look.
Go look at the YouTube clip of this. It's some crazy shit.
Oh, Roger.
I mean, yeah.
The whole thing is some crazy shit. It's a weird choice from Marlon Brando. It's just, the whole thing's weird.
Roger Moore is a major factor in the Knowing Me, Knowing You pilot. George C. Scott, I love him in Dr. Strangelove. He's great in a movie called The Hospital. He was my Scrooge growing up. Super intense guy.
He has a lot
super intense. True. I feel to me, whenever I think the movie is on focus of what things of Patton, I feel he always knows what he thinks of Patton.
Yes, I agree.
He reminds me of, I think I made this comparison recently on the podcast, of how Daniel Craig plays James Bond, where every interview he goes, James Bond's a bad person. He's a misogynist and a sociopath. And playing him that way.
No, I agree. I feel like the thing about this movie is that George C. Scott is he is Patton. And so for everything that the writing is doing around him to try and make Patton's story broader and to make a larger comment, George C. Scott is just in the middle being Patton.
Yes.
And doesn't have a viewpoint on his performance. He just, that's who he is.
Yeah.
It's so
the scene where Patton goes and goes, fuck this, I'm gonna get this done myself. Yeah. And shouts across from the river, hey, I found you a place to cross, it's right over there, and then it's just doing it. I'm like, this is exactly what it looked like, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is exactly what happened.
The other scene that I felt like is exactly what happens is him in the press gaggle, where they're like, they want to know about your pearl-handled pistols. Only whores in New Orleans have pearl-handled pistols. Mine are ivory.
That was a great line.
That was a great line.
God, it's so good.
And last bit of trivia, just because I mentioned earlier, we have seen this director before on the podcast. This guy directed Papillon.
Oh. That
makes sense.
Perfect sense.
It does.
They're very similarly directed.
Directed what?
There is a prison breakout movie starring Steve McQueen and Dustin Hoffman.
It's usually really good.
That we did who knows how many episodes
ago. It's
called
Papillon. It's based on a French novel.
Mm-hmm. That may have been real.
It's based on a French quote unquote memoir that's not it's probably fictionalized but technically a memoir.
Mm-hmm. But we haven't covered his best film yet, which is Planet of the Apes. The original.
Which I have never seen.
I have not seen it either, but I have a feeling I might like Patton more.
God, Patton's perfect.
Look at this. Planet of the Apes is so good that Don Draper watched it twice in theaters in a row.
Well, you know what? Don Draper can go suck a cock.
Again, this was also Richard Nixon's favorite movie.
I mean, that's
and the president of China watched this movie in order to prepare for meeting Richard Nixon.
Because
Richard Nixon watches so much.
Honestly, that makes a lot of sense to me.
It makes a bad amount of sense.
No, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, how much Richard Nixon liked it, how much our junior year social studies teacher liked it. So when he showed us the first part.
But then that's really bad company for me to be in for how much I love this movie.
It's okay, Sarah. We love you as you are.
I love
Mr. Bartos was rather good teacher.
Hinges. Don't worry, Austin, I did it for you.
Thanks. What do you give it, JC?
I think I give it... I give it a 4-3. I really liked it.
3-2.
Whoa!
Damn!
I don't like this movie.
Now I don't feel bad about making the average weird, because I'm going to give this a 4.8. I love this movie so much, guys. This is, of all of the discoveries that I have made I'm just going to watch through X list of movies that are supposed to be good, Patton is at the top of one of my holy shit, I love this movie.
I'm also going to give it a 4.8 because having never had seen it,
I can't believe you dumb-dumbs hit the microphone while doing it.
I don't care.
We're great.
We're high-fiving everyone, the whole audience.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Loved it. I got so into this movie.
It's so good.
It's first time through, I want to watch it again. I was ready for a long, boring war movie. I don't know.
It's so good.
This movie could definitely have 45 minutes cut out of it.
Let's
get
it
on the fucking table, record it. That was my scroll opening of the things that could be done to improve movies.
As long as not a single line from George C. Scott's performance was cut, I would agree with you.
I mean, this film
every
has
line is
make
perfect.
the movie.
This film has a Mediterranean theater, which is something that we conveniently forget because it's not as glorious as Europe or crazy as Japan.
One of my favorite pieces of World War II, of literature about World War II, is also about the Mediterranean theater, which is The English Patient, which is an absolutely amazing book.
Also Best Picture winner.
And an adequate movie. The book, however, is stunningly beautiful and is set in Sicily around this time.
That makes sense.
I should read the book because my memory of the movie is super boring.
It's fine.
Hazy is best.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's not as good as Patton. Because nothing is as good as Patton.
What I assume Anthony Minghella did to the English Patient book when adapting it.
What?
He ripped it up.
The album is ripped it up.
Rip it up and start again. Rip it up and start again. Rip it up and start again. I hope God you're not as dumb as you make out. I hope to God, and I hope to God I'm not as dumb as you make out. I hope to God.
I really don't want to give this album the time of day. I'm not gonna lie, and here's why. No, I'm straight up. This is how I feel. I listened to this album. It is an adequate post-punk 1982 British album. When you look it up on Wikipedia, swear to God, the only thing that is noted as notable about it is that it is included on this list, which means it's not notable.
Also, I think they're Swedish.
Are they? Well, it's still post-punk, and the guy who wrote it is British.
This is the second week in a row that I've tried to listen to the album, which I used to like be really good at doing, and I listened to it for about a minute, and then my whole body just said, absolutely not. Go sit in a closet and only listen to the sounds of silence.
America's Most
Literal
Wanted is
silence.
really good, and you should listen to it. Sorry.
Actually, JC said that 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I gotcha.
What did I say?
You didn't do that to last week's album. Last week was Ice Cube.
Right, I didn't listen
2
to
weeks
it.
ago. Yeah.
But no, this album
Paris 1919.
This album is like, it's not that it's like unpleasant. I just think that it is absurd that it's on the list. It has no artistic value. Or no like lasting value. I don't know why, and could not find on the internet any reason why it is notable, and I hate it because of that. Because like there's so many notable albums that this list does not have, and instead it has this, which apparently is just some dude who wrote this book liked this album when he was a kid.
Did you read the entry in the book?
We don't have the albums book, so no. I did not.
Yeah, we do.
Well, I don't
It's
have
somewhere.
But no, my thing is, I looked at the Rolling Stones article, and everything is just basically like, this is a 3-star post-punk 80s album.
Yeah, I read one review that wasn't very helpful, but
Right.
most of the review was simply, oh yeah, half the band quit, and they had to do a rush job for this album, and that's why these two songs are more like Afro-Caribbean, and that's why these two songs this way. And I thought all the songs were bad.
They
I
were
thought
all
some
stupid.
were like aggressively bad.
Yeah, no, I just I honestly I'm so annoyed at its inclusion. It just means this list is less good than I want it to be. The end.
Yeah, no, that's very fair.
Rip It Up is
Rip It Up
the
itself is
closest thing to a like fine song.
It's a fun song. I don't have like a problem with it.
It feels like this was such a huge hit single that you buy the album and then you don't listen to the rest of the album. So, yeah, I didn't like it. I thought their voices were annoying. Is bad and was a chore to listen to.
Yep.
And there wasn't even like an easy playlist on YouTube. Like,
Yeah,
here's the album.
because
So
no
I had to
one
go.
cares.
I had to go song by song.
no one
And
cares.
they were all annoying. And then they all auto played back to Rip It Up.
Ugh.
I'm like, God damn it! And tried to do
So
it.
this was all bullshit.
Henges.
1.2. I mean, like, it's just not. It shouldn't be on the list.
Yeah, 1.5.
There's so much good music in the world,
Right.
but I don't understand how this shit just keeps ending up
I agree.
on this
I
list.
totally agree.
My turn.
All right, Vader, go.
This week we listened to Beat the Clock by Sparks. Beat the Clock is a disco pop something song by the Sparks.
Sure.
An American duo. A song came out in 1979.
They're American?
Yes. Right?
That's hilarious.
bull-
You thought they were British as fuck, right?
Oh,
No,
they seemed very
I
British.
thought they were Kiwis.
Oh, really?
Oh.
That's very specific.
Interesting, yeah.
No, because the whole song felt to me like a bad song Flight of the Conchords would try to do in a concert.
Gotcha.
Of like,
That makes sense.
this is how I feel about being late.
No, they were
Gotcha.
serious. The song. Okay, so much like Sarah and her previous segment, not like you, but like your opinions on
Gotcha.
yes.
Gotcha.
Words. Why is this song here? There are so many much
I
better
agree.
songs out there. Like this peaked at number 10.
Yeah.
I guess in the UK singles, what was number 1 during this time?
Right, seriously.
Like I don't know.
Well, we can't always go by that because then the movie list will be half Transformers films.
Well, right, but songs I feel like are a little bit different in that, like, I mean, I don't know, there's some value, like, yeah, you don't want it to be, like, all of the number 1 hits ever, but a song like this, which is so unremarkable, it's like,
Yeah.
why aren't we, I don't know.
I found this one to be catchier than usual.
It's catchy, but it's catchy just like any song with a good beat that's not like shitty and offensive to your ears is catchy, in my opinion. Like,
yeah.
it's I don't know. I snapped a picture of the book entry just to see what the hell the hype was about. This song got a full page on the book. That's like reserved for like big songs. Usually they're like
Right.
Two on a page. This one got a full page. Apparently, the song is about the fast pace of modern living. Here we go. Quote, with its protagonist entering school at the tender age of 2, acquiring his doctorate the same afternoon, getting divorced by age 4, his life's ambition is to meet Liz Taylor, and suddenly that happens as well. I didn't get any of that from this song.
I took it as a, mockery of capitalism, beat the clock, living out your workday, grueling till 5 kind of song.
But did you love it, though?
Beat the clock got stuck in my head for quite a bit. The music video is weird because I can't tell if they're doing, Hitler fascism or modern times, the Chaplin satire, but I'm like, but you know that
could be either.
But you know that Chaplin with the same Hitler mustache wasn't running the thing in modern times. He was the victim. It was confusing. It was a pretty dumb music video of its time. Oh, yep. Mm-hmm. It's cute how dumb it is. This is all of our clock stop motion ideas.
Did you think it was about a protagonist who at age 2 did something and at age 4 had his doctorate?
No.
Exactly. I think the reason this song is on this list is because Sparks never made it big in the U.S. Then they went to England and became an overnight hit. When they came back, flopped some more. They presented a ton of songs to their producer. Only 2 were picked, one of which was this song. So I think it's because in 1973, these 2 Americans came to England and had a gay old time and were had this huge hit, or were a hit, and then they left, but that's okay because we're English and we're writing these books, so there's no...
So it's kind of like how people win a Golden Globe. All you have to do is just schmooze with those 30 people and you're going to get the award.
I thought that this song would be a good song to both do aerobics to, and also for the soundtrack of my life when I'm running away from a serial killer. Fits that niche.
It's such a lighthearted thriller that you're in.
I know.
I mean,
it would be ironic.
Yeah, we know you're not going to die, but
But I am running pretty fast.
Yeah, but what are you going to do? There's a serial killer here.
Oh boy!
Oh no!
I gotta
go. Yeah, I think it's catchy. I don't think it's smart or deep. It's firmly in the not annoying camp.
I don't know. It's just if it's all about being a catchy song, then any commercial jingle from pick a decade would qualify. It's fine that it's on here. I've listened to worse songs on this list, but after seeing Patton and listening to this all day,
beat the clock.
What the hell?
It's no Patton.
No.
Okay.
Definitely not.
Definitely not.
Pick your own 4.5 minute segment of Patton anywhere, and it'll be better than this.
Fuck yeah.
I mean, the intermission didn't have any music, right? We could have put Beat the Clock in there.
The intermission did have music, and I'm sad that I never brought this up in Patton. Thinking about it just now, I loved the little flair of military brass.
It was great.
That would just pop up here and there.
It was great.
It really made me stir.
I had 30 seconds of
very, very patriotic, proud to be American
exactly.
shit. Yeah.
Intermission started with 30 seconds of no music, so I just
so that you could sit silently and reflect.
Reflect on America.
It was 7 a.m.
You know what? If you take equal parts, 2 minutes before and 2 minutes after the 30 seconds of silence, still better than this.
Henges.
2 henges. 2.5 for the catchiness. I'll give it.
You were
half.
So close to being mean.
2. No, you know what? 1.7.
Guys,
2.5.
Not good.
3. Guys, it's not that bad.
I'm just grumpy that it's on the list because it's unremarkable.
It's fine. Now it's time for the TV show segment, and this week we watched Knowing Me, Knowing You.
Knowing me, knowing you.
Aha, aha. Knowing Me, Knowing You is a one-season British satire with the first proper on-screen appearance by the comedy character Alan Partridge. This is a character that Steve Coogan created alongside like Armando Iannucci, who we know best from like creating The Thick of It, In the Loop, and Veep, and last year's wonderful film Death of Stalin. He was initially appearing as just a broadcaster in their kind of fake radio news reports, and then kind of went on to do the TV version as well. This is taking that character and kind of giving him his own platform. Initially, it was a radio show called Knowing Me, Knowing You, and within the world of Alan Partridge, now this guy gets to have his own late-night talk show, akin to like Graham Norton or David Letterman kind of thing. The show takes place in 6 episodes, each one a week apart, as essentially you're watching a terrible person become more and more frustrated that the show's falling apart around him. I had seen this in college and saw it again this time. Who all watched it?
I watched it.
I did.
How many did JC and Sarah watch?
I watched 4.
I watched the first episode, the 3rd episode, and the 4th episode.
All right.
I watched all 6.
Of course you did.
Peter watched Patton.
Yes.
So I have lots of thoughts on this show, but I'll let you guys jump in first.
It was funny.
Yeah, it was funny. I know you love it, and I don't get it. So, like, I thought it was funny. I didn't think it was, like, really funny.
It definitely took me a couple episodes to, like, get into it. And I think that is usually what happens to me with British comedies. Not to sound like a 60-year-old woman, but, like, I think the pacing in, like, getting into it, like, you just have to, like, get into it. But then by the 3rd episode I watched, I thought it was quite funny.
Yeah, so right now in 2019, Alan Partridge has a new show on the air. Because after this, a couple years later, they did a sitcom for 2 seasons, and he's now had a couple of like memoirs and other like appearances in like comedy shows. He had his own movie. And I was watching this new one, and it reminded me kind of the structure of this, because in this new show in 2019, he is asked to fill in as a guest host for like a morning talk show, like Good Morning America or the One Show in the UK. And the show began in the first like 10 minutes. I go, man, I am not laughing very much. Is this like not really working in 2018? And then by the end, I was cracking up because like I think especially with like Alan Partridge and Armando Iannucci like comedies, it's treating it more like a play than a sitcom. Like it's going to just really plant the seeds so early on to kind of pay off. So it isn't like, because like so many American shows have like a constant joke per minute ratio throughout an entire episode. And like especially this first episode, they don't really kind of tell you what kind of person he is until the end, when like everyone kind of turns on him. Then every subsequent episode, more people turn on him, and the more aggressively mean he is, which will then lead to, vague spoiler, his downfall and in-universe banishment from the BBC until 2019.
I mean, that seems reasonable.
Yeah, so it is a thing where like it's almost hard just to watch the first episode, because it also doesn't work like a sitcom because it is one full story. But I don't know, what did we think of a like truly bigoted character as like the focal point, I guess?
I mean, the show is definitely clear from the beginning that he's the villain. Like, it's not like there's ever a question, which is good. I mean, with any kind of show like this, you're gonna have things being said on screen that are like deeply offensive. But I think the show hits the right like tone with those things. I guess I just like, it was funny. It just didn't do it for me. And I felt bad because I know how much you love this show. It didn't work for me. It was funny. Like I was like, that's a fun, I did a lot of like, I see what you did there.
It made me really want to watch Hamlet 2.
Yep.
Which is truly an incredible film.
Is it?
I love Hamlet 2.
I saw it in theaters and I was so excited, and I was disappointed by it, except for that perfect song. Rock Me Sexy Jesus.
Rock Me Sexy Jesus.
Which should have been up for an Oscar. It's bullshit it wasn't. Cowards.
Hamlet 2 is really funny. I haven't seen it since I was in high school, and I don't plan on seeing it again because I don't want my perfect memories ruined. I think I found it funnier than Sarah, but not as funny as Austin. So I'm like somewhere in the middle. Or like by the third episode I saw, which I think was the episode with the old women who were the Olympic runners.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That was funny. And then like he was making them like redo it. I don't know. Like there are just lots of little bits that I was finding funnier. And I liked the ABBA medley that he had to sing with that woman. That was very funny to me.
There is such a in-universe, like, you can understand the production meetings that Alan Partridge had to kind of make his show. Like, he really thought, like, the phrase, knowing me, knowing you, would be like, oh, this is his catchphrase that everyone's going to love to do. That him going, knowing me, Alan Partridge, knowing you, Sarah, we don't say our last names in this show.
Yeah.
Knowing you, Sarah, knowing me, Alan Partridge. Like, that whole thing is so irritating from the beginning.
Oh, it's so annoying.
And his catchphrase of aha bombs immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have these, like, ideas like, oh, this made sense in the room, the in-universe Alan Partridge, like, production room, with, like, oh, we're going to have the woman who is just won the British Kentucky Derby for horses. We're going to have her jump a horse here.
Right.
And she goes, no, it's concrete. The horse's legs will shatter.
That's not good.
we're not going to do this. So they have to just, like, put the things back.
Mm-hmm.
That gag was very funny to me. Like, and then it's like the dogs instead of the dolls.
I feel like this show would have benefited from mockumentary style. I feel like I wanted the behind the scenes, like, writer's room telling me, like, all of the reasons that this was dumb. And I think that, like, it was harder for me to get into all of the bullshit he's doing and how, like, it doesn't make sense because, like, so many of the jokes are just like, and this is the thing he's trying. Ooh. And so there's no, like, there's sort of like a there's an intentional lack of payoff that is funny, but it tends to do the same thing over and over. I don't know. It didn't quite work right.
Yeah. The one thing I think structurally doesn't work for me in the show, and I get, like, why they did it, but, like, they had an actual live studio audience for the show.
That's weird.
So that isn't like a like built-in laugh track. And I think that really hurts the show more than it helps the show because the real life audience knows they're watching
a fake show.
I think in the real universe of Knowing Me, Knowing You airing, you would have a lot. It's so catchy. Yeah. You would have a lot weaker laughs when he's falling apart.
Yes.
Because it's just so unbelievably awkward. Like, or you would have laughs at the wrong time.
I guess that's what I want about, like, the mockumentary. Like, I want this to feel more real, like, in a like, oh god, this is awful to watch this person fall apart in front of me kind of way.
And the new show is more at that, which I think I like the new show more. But yeah, I do like, because it makes you feel okay, because knowing that all the guests are fake, and to have 3 actors kind of play a different guest every episode, you kind of feel better when, like, he's so mean to them, because you also know that they're, like, writers of the show. And I think it's the only thing I want to say left is that the last 5 minutes, last episode, is so unbelievably funny. And I know they did, like, a Christmas special, like, later, and I almost, like, don't really treat that as, like, canon in a way, because to end on those 5 minutes is one of the funniest things in sitcoms. But
I really like Steve Coogan. This made me remember that I like Steve Coogan a lot. So
I do want to, like, catch up on my, like, missing Alan Partridge stuff, because, like, he did a movie. I really want to, like, listen to the audiobook, because Alan Partridge wrote 2 memoirs, one of which is a perfect title. I Partridge, we need to talk about Alan, which is hilarious to me.
That's delightful.
Yeah, Steve Coogan. Still doing this character decades later.
Henges.
4.3.
3.6.
Like a 3.9.
Awesome.
Cool.
That is Knowing Me, Knowing You.
Knowing Me, Knowing You.
Aha! Yeah. No, I can't go down a rabbit hole. Just like, this part's funny.
No.
Because that's it. That's the end of episode 151.
Yeah.
We did it.
We did it. We did a thing. We recorded it. And presumably you're all listening to it now.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do it.
Because if you aren't, then like it's a little tree in a forest. Like we don't... If you're not listening to it, it doesn't even exist.
Yes.
This is too dark.
The night is dark and full of terrors.
Well, next week we are covering things that really aren't that dark at all.
No, not at all. It's true.
We have the 166 entries in all these lists.
Root 166. What? 66 is a good number.
It's true.
I'm not validating this.
Why
Stop looking
not?
at me.
But I love you.
No, Sarah, you only love Patton.
Yeah, don't look at Patton
too.
when you say that.
Patton and Jamie Lannister. It's pretty much my life right now.
It says
both really good at war.
Both very good at war.
Yeah.
Austin, the point is, you get better at war.
No. I'm feeling remarkably insecure right now.
They're both very blonde. As are you.
Okay.
Better at war, Austin.
Get better at war.
Get busy killing, get busy dying.
Exactly.
What the hell are we watching next week?
Meet me at St. Louis. I don't know if that's the song. But
It's not.
I just
stars
decided to trip.
Judy Garland, not Ethel Merman.
Me in St. Louis,
I can't sound like Judy Garland, Austin.
God.
It's transphobia.
Oh my god.
I'm no, that was a joke.
The album is Live/Dead by the Grateful Dead.
The song is... What is
We're all doing fine, guys.
Mm-hmm.
The song is Sinnerman by Nina Simone.
Oh, that's such a good song.
It is a good song.
And we're watching...
We're gonna run to... See, that's the actual song
It's a
for that
good
one.
song.
And next week we're doing another sitcom about a bigot that is weirdly funny. All in the Family.
It's true that it's a weird pairing with...
That actually fits
No,
well.
I was thinking, I was like... Because I was going to make an All in the Family reference, but then I was like, I'm not sure I remember... Because I haven't seen enough of All in the Family, so I'm very excited.
Yeah, I'm very excited. We have covered the spinoff for on the podcast, The Jeffersons.
Mm-hmm.
But now we're going to do
All in the Family.
Original Recipe.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
KFC.
Yeah. Until next week, you can follow us on Twitter at The Immortals Pod. You can check out other podcasts over at theartimmortal.com, including the final episodes of Let's Take 5. I forget which one's airing this week, so I think we took last week off. Or if we didn't, we took this week off. Either way, you can find The Last Temptation of Christ somewhere. Also, we had a great episode about Die Hard with former Immortal Adam Lord.
Oh, I miss Adam.
And Ad Absurdum, latest episode is about Dave, but I imagine one is coming out
There will
in
be
April.
An episode when Sarah stops actually having to pass laws in the real legislature and becomes a lawyer.
Yep. Hand-waving air quotes work so well on podcasts.
You know what? I don't need your sex.
I think she did marvelously.
Thank you, Pedro.
I could hear those quotes.
Thank you, Pedro. I appreciate you.
Try to be as grumpy as Patton one time and I was shot down.
Nope. Can't do it, bud.
Also, I don't know if it's on the feed yet or it's going to come out between episode 151 and 152, but we're about to record 2 commentary tracks of the 2 films that were created in The Chair. The reality show we did as a bonus episode last episode of 150. Pedro, Sarah, and I, and Adam, former Immortal, all sat down and are going to record 2 commentary tracks in a row.
For reasons that are not clear to anyone but Austin.
Yep.
I don't even know if he knows.
Yeah, let's be real.
But, oh, no. None of this makes any sense.
Nope.
But, yeah, thank you all for listening. Maybe this makes sense to you. There has to be someone out there who thinks this makes sense, right?
Somebody out there, please validate us.
We're all doing fine,
This
right?
is God. There is no validation for you.
JC, no!
JC's not here.
Okay.
What happened?
It's gonna be okay.
We're bringing mythology back.
Wait, oh no, this is straight up bringing it back, which is hilarious because JC never listens to the podcasts. So they don't even know.
You're right.
They don't even know.
Okay. We have to end this.
Yeah, it's time.
All right, anywho. We'll be back next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
I'm Pedro.
I'm Austin.
Sarah. Yeah.
I forget how these shows end.
I'm JC. Please turn us off.
20 more minutes.
We're winners.
Was that the first time my name was first?
Cut the cord.
All of that was very confusing.
It's still
the plug.
It's still being recorded.
We're just be done now. It's time to be done.
Headphones are coming off.
Bye, everyone.
And we're out.
Bye.
Bye-bye.